Hi friends, this is your pal Scott Garibay, and today we are going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons and Runehammer Games physical store in Philadelphia and and um and breaking a seal. All right, okay. So let's talk about this. All right, so my name is Scott Garibay. I absolutely love Dungeons & Dragons. And because I love Dungeons & Dragons, I play Dungeons & Dragons competitors. And one of Dungeons & Dragons' greatest competitors is Index Card RPG. And I don't need to tell you that that is true for me. You could look on this channel and you will find easily 100 videos on Index Card RPG. In fact, there was a video that went up today on my channel about it, Index Card RPG, right? And that's been happening for 10 years because I've been buying Index Card RPG games for 10 years, right? So I'm a huge fan of Brandish Gilhelm, the main driver of Index Card RPG and the main driver of Runehammer Games. And I bought it all. Like, I owned Index Card RPG in 2 editions, and I did own it in 4 editions. I gave 2 of them away, right? I own Hardsuit and Junked and War Maker and just an unbelievable amount of content, right? And I'm just a huge fan of Brandish Gilhelm, right, personally. So he opened up a shop called Runehammer. It's called the Runehammer Shop, and it's right here in Philadelphia, and it's a friendly local game shop. So I went there for the first time, and about a month ago, and actually I did some coverage on when I went. I did a video on that. And I intended, I was like, I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna get my book signed by Brandish Gilhelm, and I just took 4 books, right? Because I don't want to I literally own easily 15 or 20 books that he's written, right? And I didn't want to just dump them all there because I watched a show called Con Man, which talked about that exact problem, and so I'm taking books slowly to get him to sign them. And my intention was that every time I walk in the door, I'm going to be dropping $60 because I'm going to buy a new game, right? Well, the stuff he sells is a little more niche than what you would. So I ended up spending $150 the first time I walked in the store, right? And so I had the best time. I had a great conversation with Brandish Gilhelm, and I got four books signed. But I ended up buying 2 books for $75 a piece. I bought Shadowdark and I bought Crown and Skull. And I walked out the door paying $150 just because I was excited and saw stuff I wanted, right? So I go home and I there's one woman in the world who loves me more than anybody else. And I was like, hey, I got to figure out what to do about this store because I got to do one of 2 things. I need to keep going and figure out how to go there and not break us, financially, or I need to forget this place exists. And I'm asking you this now. And so the woman who loves me the most, she's like, "You got $60, right? Once a month. So go walk in the door, buy 1 game, but you need to go in that place once a month. That's the frequency, right?" And I was like, "That's a great idea. Bet I'm in. That's fine." Right? So that's what was decided, right? So then I was like, okay, what do I do with that, right? And so one of the things I did was I went on to look at their events. And so get this. So the reason why we're talking about this today is I went on and they have events where you can play all kinds of tabletop role-playing games. It's $50 a session per person. Right? And I was like, whoa, okay. I have never paid a dungeon master in my entire life, right? Now, the reality is, if this had been any other shop, I would have said no way, right? But this is Brandish Gilhelm's shop, right? This is the guy who created Roleplaying Games. This is one of the best tabletop role-playing game designers in the world, right? And he's a personal hero. Let me explain this to you, right? This shop is super weird for me, right? Because I'm walking in and I'm like, oh, you got some games on the shelves. I'll buy a game now. And I'm acting like this is a regular FLGS. But I need to explain this to you. Imagine if you were a country music fan and in your town, Elvis opened up a chicken shop, right, that sold 2-piece meals, right? Like, and so it was Elvis's chicken shop, right? So what would happen, right? Some people would oh, I'm hungry, I'm gonna go get some chicken. And then they would go to Elvis's shop. Other people would go to the shop because Elvis was there. They don't care about the chicken. They're like, yeah, give me a 2-piece. I don't really need it. I just want to stand next to you, right? Like, and that's me. Like, I don't care about the tabletop role-playing games in this FLGS. I'm there to stand next to Brandish Gilham for another 15 minutes and get him to sign some more books and just kind of bask in his presence. It's really strange for me, right? Because I couldn't believe it. So I'm going to jump ahead in my story a little bit. I played, and 2 of the 4 players, they were like, oh, it's your first time. I was like, this is my second time here at the shop. And they're like, oh, so you're a big D&D fan? I'm like, well, I'm an index card RPG fan, right? And they're like, what's that? And I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, what the full on F? What do you mean? What is the, like, I said it inside. I was like, what do you mean? What is it, Dark? Why are you here if you don't know what index card RPG? And they were just there to play Dungeons & Dragons, which is like, they were there for the chicken sandwich. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys don't even know this chicken shop is run by Elvis. What is happening? Right? It was just like, it was so strange, right? And, and it was just bizarre, right? So here's the point of this video, because I have so much to say about this. I couldn't recap the game or give you, all I got to do in this video is, I'm just going to tell you, I broke a seal, right? So I have never in my life paid any Dungeon Master to Dungeon Master until tonight, right? Like, so I'm driving home from it now. And the thing that blows my mind is I just paid a Dungeon Master $50 for one session. All right, so I won't bury the lead. The Dungeon Master, her name was Katie, and she's an employee there at the shop. If I had paid $150 for that session, for that one session, I would be very satisfied. I would be completely satisfied. I would be like, money well spent, right? So it was absolutely worth the $50 spent. It was phenomenal. I was extremely happy with it. Katie is a phenomenal Dungeon Master. It was a Dungeons & Dragons Western one-shot, which is like my ball of wax, right? I love D&D and I love Westerns. It was a train heist. It was so good. And so it was really worth the money. It was really worth the money. But it is breaking a seal. I have never paid a Dungeon Master in my life, right? And now I'm very glad I did, and it's part of my adventure with the Runehammer physical shop, right? And so I'm gonna try, and the first time I was there, Brandish Gilham, he knew who I was, and he was like, hey, don't be a stranger, come back, and so he was very inviting, and I really felt great, I need to figure this shop out. I need to figure out how it fits into my life. How do I use my $60 a month best? Do I buy one game from him a month and have him sign another, book or two? Do I use my $50 to do a one shot once a month? Do I jump in, and I've already been invited? They have an ongoing game there, but that would be a campaign, right? And those are once a month, right? But it would take all my money for the shop, right? So I might do that. So that's where I am right now. I was extremely happy with the experience. I have broken the seal. I am now a Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Master payer. I've never done that in my entire life, right? So that is breaking a seal for me, and I think I'm still processing it, I'm very glad I did. I'm also feel incredibly blessed that the Runehammer physical FLGS is there, and I just have to figure out how to use it in my life. Thank you very much for letting me share this experience with you. It really helps me to talk these things through with a global audience. It's how I process things, and I'm very thankful that you're here and you're listening to these videos. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.